Welcome back, Shalligators. Today we're going to talk about Pete Davidson, kind of seemingly out of the blue, checking into rehab for PTSD and BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And not just that, the pros and cons of dating someone with a lot of issues, whether that's mental illness, drug addiction, and hold on. You're probably saying, Shallon, backlash. How could you make a sarcastic headline? This man is trying to get help. I know, that's great. The headline isn't sarcastic. This is not a joke headline. We gotta get real with ourselves and look at our dating history and look at the people we're attracted to and realize that there are actually pros as we define them. There are emotional payouts and positive things that we like about dating someone who's a bit of a mess. Don't you now wish that this headline was sarcastic? Because instead, I'm going to drag us all to hell. So get excited. Yeah, this is me when I'm not being sarcastic. We're going to get in there. We're going to talk about why we're drawn to people with mental health issues. And this is just a big umbrella of mess. It's just all kind of in the garbage can of mess. And I'm not saying that these people are garbage people. There's perfectly healthy people who aren't on any medication. They don't have any personality disorders or drug addictions or traumas. They are just garden variety assholes who are awful, okay? And then there's people who are dealing with something and maybe they're not awful, but maybe their circumstances. Maybe they are awful. I don't know. But it kind of falls in that category of awful for you, in the way that a peanut falls in the category of awful for someone with a peanut allergy, right? Well, listen, people with peanut allergies don't go around licking peanut butter off stuff. They just don't. I've never seen it. But yet we, perhaps knowing we're allergic to a drug addict, we're allergic to a guy with an attachment issue, here we come anyway. Why do we do this? Why the fuck do we do this? We're going to break it down and talk about really why we stay in these dynamics when on the surface we're so I'm so sorry I keep doing these air quotes. I'm so sorry. I'll put them away. I'll put the fingers away. We'll put them away. When on the surface we're not happy about this, we cry and we complain and we say we want something different and something better, and yet here we are again, dating someone just like this, getting back with an ex. I am in this situation kind of right now. So it's something I've been talking about with my own therapist because he's like, why this guy? Why are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. But he's like, of course you know. You might not want to admit it yourself, but you know. The writing is on a wall. You're just choosing not to read it. I told you, you're going to wish this headline was sarcastic and it was just a shitty ass rant about Pete Davidson. Sadly, it's not. I'm actually in Pete's corner on this one. So we're going to break it down. I'm going to tell you all to tea. But before we get started, if you need some help kind of resetting your standards, resetting your dating methods, go ahead and download my new course on dating apps and finding love on Bumble, Hinge, Tinder. It's really overwhelming when you start to online date. Where do you begin? What do you put in your profile? What photos do you upload? What are red flags in a guy's profile? Are you posting things that are red flaggy and you don't even know it? How to take it from that pen pal stage offline and into an actual date, and how to ace a date so that you get a second one and craft a really solid relationship. So go ahead and click down below. It's 5 videos sent straight to your phone. Don't have to do anything. You can do it in your pajamas. And also, if you want to connect with me, of course, join the Shallontrage. It's our bonus content, 5 new videos a week, plus access to all of our group chats. You'll get the online dating course for free, my sexy hookup tutorial course, Evil Week, Shallentine's Day, and all that good stuff. All right, let's talk about Pete. So the New York Post has sources, so this isn't a statement straight from Pete himself, saying that he's in a Pennsylvania facility where his friend John Mulaney went help for booze and cocaine. Is John Mulaney not the funniest person that's ever existed? I remember being at one of his comedy shows and laughing so hard, I was like, I think I'm going to throw up. It was the happy birthday sign. Oh my God, I can't. So the friend says, Pete regularly goes to rehab for tune-ups. I'm sorry, I'm doing the quotes again. And to take a mental break. So that's what's happening. Okay, so it's been kind of a weird month for him. He went on this rant to PETA because they accused him of buying a dog. Well, he did buy a dog. It wasn't a baseless accusation. Him and his girlfriend, Chase Chase Suey Wonders. You know how I feel about people with 3 names. Lee Harvey Oswald. Need I say more? That's what I thought. They were buying a dog and people like, adopt, don't shop, rah! And PETA like tore him to shreds and he fucking snapped on them and was like, you know what? This dog was for my mom. She needs some sort of doodle breed because she's allergic to everything. Her dog just died. This is the worst time for her. Fuck off. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you. Good for you, Pete. Like, I am a huge proponent of adopt, don't shop, of course. But also, like, fuck off and get bent. Maybe, I don't know. I just felt for him because I've lost a pet and like, I don't know. I just kind of felt for him and his family. But, and you know, I'm not like a Pete apologist. I'm not a Pete apologist. Also, he was charged for reckless driving after ramming his car into a house in Beverly Hills. But at the time of their incidents, police sources told TMZ, they didn't believe drugs or alcohol played a factor in the crash. They didn't believe. Is that what we're running on? Is it the belief system? Is it just like the honor system? Do you believe drugs and alcohol? No, I don't. Well, okay, good enough for me. Was anyone breathalyzed with drug tests? No? Okay. I mean, maybe that is code for they were and they was ruled out. I don't know. It just seems like a weird use of the word belief. You believe in Santa Claus. I don't want to fucking believe whether or not someone's wasted driving into the side of my house. So he's been to rehab twice before. And he had an issue, still is dealing with this issue, borderline personality disorder. He said, I was always just so confused all the time. I just thought something was wrong and I didn't know how to deal with it. And then somebody finally tells you the weight of the world is lifted off your shoulders. You feel so much better. And that's true. You know, there's nothing worse than not knowing what's wrong with you, even if it's fairly minor. I remember when I finally got diagnosed with hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. Not earth-shattering news. Nobody cared. But I was like, you're not supposed to throw up if you eat half a cookie in the morning. That's considered odd. But you're just like, oh, okay. So Pete has borderline personality disorder. And I've ridden pretty hard about this before. It was one of the things people use to try to cancel me. Is I'm so unfeeling. Listen, I've dealt with people with borderline personality disorder. And if it's something you have, it's not something you choose to have. It's an attachment disorder, meaning it's different than a mental illness, which is like a chemical thing. OCD, bipolar, depression, those are mental illnesses because you can medicate them. Isn't it weird you can medicate OCD? I know. Borderline personality disorder is there with like narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder. Those you can't medicate. There's no like cool pill. I almost did the fingers again. There's no cool pill. But you can ameliorate them greatly through therapy. And at the time when I went so hard with Pete, that's not what he was doing. Party's back on. We got scratchers. We got weed. He was, fresh out of rehab smoking weed. That was a quote from him. Party's back on. I've never forgotten it. I don't think I've said the word party since. I don't like it anymore. He's ruined it for me. And he just seemed extremely cavalier about this. And if you have an attachment disorder or a personality disorder, and you are spraying that venom on everyone around you, yeah, go fuck yourself. Yes, go fuck yourself. If you're going to therapy and you're eating healthy and you're staying sober and you're dealing with something, no, do not go fuck yourself. Good for you. Good for you. Yes. Yes, queen. Yes, king. That's exactly what you should be doing. Amazing. Making progress. I might personally not want to date you, but that doesn't mean you're undateable. So look, if Pete's switching into the zone where he's like taking care of things, great. Great, man. I have a lot of sympathy and empathy and elasticity for people who are trying to change their circumstance. I have almost none for people who aren't. Sorry. There's too many of us out here grinding and working hard and doing the work and putting in the time who aren't getting the accolades for that. And then these assholes over here are like, this is me. Like, okay, that's you. And I think you're a nightmare person. I think you're a garbage person. I don't want you anywhere near me or mine. I think that that's perfectly valid. Why is that an incendiary thing to say? You want to be some berserker war machine moving through the world. Well, I'm the thing that shit breaks against, all right? I'm the wall that pops up in front of that and the people I love. But good for Pete. I'm a little curious. What this PTSD is. What an odd thing to lead with. Because Pete has talked about his depression a lot. Because we're living in the golden age of everyone talking about all of their maladies. He's talking about his depression a lot. PTSD. So it's unclear what this PTSD is rooted in. And, I feel like the answer people are quick to point to is, well, his dad died in September 11th. Yeah. I mean, maybe. He was 7 when that happened. I don't know. But this is the thing. People are using the words trauma and PTSD interchangeably, and they are absolutely not the same. All PTSD is trauma, but not all trauma is PTSD. But people love to apply that label because it makes them feel special, blah, 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 blah. Come on up here. Oh, who do we have? Is this a special guest? What would you like to say, Dr. Snouty? Professor Snouty's on the case. Yep. It's like, shut the fuck up already. I know what that look means, okay? I understand what the look is. Okay, I'm back. The dog doesn't want to be on camera anymore, so we're back. Okay, so PTSD is actually kind of a thorny subject. It's very, in the articles I've been reading, they're like the DSM, like the basic, like the psychology, like Bible, hasn't really caught up to the research. So the definitions that scientists and clinicians are coming up with, they're not yet being like documented and like chiseled into stone in the DSM, which is kind of weird, like everything just moves so fucking slow. But one thing that they do say, and this has nothing really to do with Pete, I just find it interesting, is that 2 people could experience the same event completely differently based on their resiliency. They're basically their neuroticism. So low neuroticism is what you want in a person. High neuroticism means someone can't really bounce back. And we all know people like this. Like the flight's delayed, they're like, whoa! They just spiral. They can't handle it. They're a nightmare to travel with. I am fairly low neurotic. I have what's known as a high chaos tolerance. And like I've gone through events that not most people, but some people would like never fucking forget. Like I got kidnapped in Africa and I was like, hey, it was kind of exciting. I never thought I was going to die. I never had any ill will towards our kidnappers because I felt like, we'd spent a lot of time in Africa by that point. I'm like, I see the poverty here and I see that you can be driven to do things that you don't want to do. It was just a different world. And so it wasn't, I don't know, it just kind of rolled off me. And I even had an ex, he's like, does this like come up for you? I was like, no, it's fine. Other people, someone puts a gun in their face at a stoplight, they never get over it, and that doesn't mean that they're a weaker person. There's things I've been through that I have not fucking gotten over when other people like, just move on. So it's interesting that people can experience the same event in a completely different way based on their resiliency, either at the time or just perhaps baseline. So I'm curious, what this PTSD thing is that Pete's got going on. I just think that that's a weird term to trot out. And I mean, I asked you guys on Instagram, what's the topic here? Is there a topic? And people are like, leave him alone. Shut the fuck up. No, we can learn something from this. And we're not making fun of him. We're not shredding him. We're learning something. Grow up. You guys said on Instagram, because I was like, what's the topic? And so many of you guys were like, rehab, that is for drugs. That is for drugs. Last time I checked, rehab is for drugs. And it's obvious that this man is on drugs, that he likes drugs. Drugs. I am very anti-weed. I need to come out like in protest of weed. I'm backlashing on weed. I think weed is one of the most detrimental things people can chronically do. And if you heard the term weed cell, like an incel, we're bothering the dog just to let you know. One of my friends is a weed cell. She can't get out of bed without smoking. She smokes before a party. She smokes before bed. She smokes before this. She smokes before that. And she's like, weed is like good for you. I was like, what the fuck are you basing that on? It seems like you really lack coping mechanisms for life. Think about it if it was cake. She can't get out of bed without cake. Oh, don't ask her to a party. She's going to be in the car eating a big old piece of cake before she can go inside. Oh yeah, she always keeps cake in the nightstand before bed. Would you be like, that's normal? You'd be like, that seems bad. That seems real bad and real weird. When you're that reliant on anything, lip gloss, for God's sake. No, she's not going anywhere without the lip gloss. It's like, that isn't good. And I feel like this weed agenda that is being pushed on people, and especially young people, just blows my mind. Like it is, and it's been linked to schizophrenia in young men. High weed usage has been linked to schizophrenia in young men. It's doing shit to your brain. Like, come the fuck on. Pete likes weed. And for some people, I don't know. People were like, oh, it calms me down. Learn to calm yourself down. Learn to calm yourself down. I don't feel like you are coming up with the appropriate toolbox. I think you're reaching for the edibles because it's a lot easier and it's cooler and you get to make fun of squares like me because I don't do the weed. No, I don't. I calm myself down. I do the brain. I do the meditation. I do the breathing. That's what I do. Yeah, it took a lot longer than running down to the dispensary and just like stuffing myself to the gills with like marijuana. I sound so old. But I mean, do you guys agree? Like, and listen, I know some people like, hey, it helps me immensely. And it's either this or I go on like serious big pharma drugs. Yeah, okay. That's probably true. And that's, I guess, better. But again, like, if you're going to do that, put some time and effort into therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, tapping therapy, stuff like that. Like, try these things. We're getting in the weeds here. Like what I did there, I didn't even mean to do that. That's how clever I am. Do you know how clever? I didn't even mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. And so what a lot of you guys said, which I thought was interesting. I'm going to tilt this down just a little bit more. It's bothering me. Oh, that's better. Oh, that's better. Oh, no, that's not better. Okay, that's better. What a lot of you guys said was, you need to go to rehab for drugs. Like, you go to rehab for a personality disorder. You go to rehab for depression. Ugh. And at first I'm like, yeah, that's okay. I, for a long time, assumed people were lying, like celebrities were just lying, which, believe me, I do still believe the vast majority of them are. Like, exhaustion, give me a fucking break. Well, let's say you're not. Let's say you're not. Let's say he's going to deal with his personality disorder and whatever his PTSD is rooted in. Awesome. That's awesome. That sounds dope. Are you kidding? That sounds so cool. I wish everybody would go to rehab, go to concentrated 30-day therapy to sort out your bullshit issues. It doesn't have to be a mental illness. It doesn't even have to be a personality disorder. Maybe you cannot get over this one ex. Maybe you just don't know how to deal with your sister. Can you imagine just being able to go someplace and do nothing but focus on that? That would be incredible. I wish there was like a petite rehab. I guess it's called therapy. But like, I wish it was like not rehab for 30 days, but like a week, a long weekend. I mean, I guess they do have like therapy intensives. I don't know. Have you guys ever done one? Have you ever been on like a therapy retreat? Did it work? Because here's where we're going to get into our actual topic now. I have someone I love very much in my life, and he's been to rehab twice. And I am ready to burn those places to the ground because I really am not getting the sense that they've given him a toolbox to deal with his addiction. And it's getting pretty painful to watch. Because for the amount of money he spent on this, he should be straightened out like a piece of wire. And I feel like rehab is kind of a scam. Like if you've ever listened to like podcasts on like rehab scammers, like people who run rehabs, there's like very little structure, very little, there's not like always this incredible science and database plan that they're following. He was saying that his therapy, I'm like, God, are you in therapy like 6 hours a day? He's like, well, there's a lot of group therapy. I was like, is there individual? He's like, not really. What? So that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, you're paying $1,000 a day to listen to someone else's problems? Pay me $1,000 a day. I'll talk about myself 24 hours. Like, what? So let's get into it. The pros and cons of dating someone messy like that. You might be thinking, the pros. How dare you? There are no pros. Or, I don't know, maybe you're on the other side. The cons. How dare you break people down into a list of pros and cons? Sweetheart, if you're not breaking everything in life down into a list of pros and cons, you are hella inefficient. Life must be very difficult for you, and you must not really feel like you're moving the needle on accomplishing anything. Because you're not thinking strategically. Of course I have pros and cons lists for people in my life. I have a categorization system for everything. From outfits to food to vacations and no shit to people. Because I hemorrhage the most energy towards people, not outfits. So what are they? Well, you know what? Let's start with the cons because that seems the most obvious, right? The cons of dating someone mentally ill, messy, drug addict, alcoholic, chronic vapor, however you might define this. Okay? And here's something that's going to blow your mind. A lot of the cons, they're also the pros. For example, a big con of dating someone messy or toxic or in a bad place, whatever, is that you're not focusing on your life. Everything orients around them, their trauma, their struggle, their addiction, their schedule, their lies, whatever that might be, right? It's the them show. It's the Pete show. That sucks. Or does it? Shallon, why would I want that? Well, because if you're focusing on them, guess who you're not focusing on? Yourself. I know. That's because I am a selfless person. Nope. It's because you're a bullshit coward. I'm talking to you, but I am also talking to myself because I have been through this so many times. I've been through this so many times. We have talked so much on this channel about codependency, which is defined as you care more about that person's problems than they care about their problems. You want more for them than they want for themselves. Now, the ultimate codependent couple is Hailey and Justin, right? Hailey Bieber and Justin Bieber. She is just this stable beacon and he's a little mess and she pulls up for that. That's what was modeled to her. That's her parents' dynamic. Her mother never left. And so that kind of weirdly feels good for her. It feels very, very familiar. It feels very familiar. Good and familiar, we think are opposites, but to our psyche, they're the same because our psyche is a what? A risk machine. A risk machine. Your psyche wants to know, I can predict an outcome. I can predict an outcome. Even if that outcome's bad, I would rather have a bad but known outcome than an unknown, possibly good outcome. That's too risky. That's a gambling. No. I don't want to roll the dice on that. It's interesting. So when you're focused on him, you're not focused on yourself. You're not focused maybe on your fitness or on passing the bar or moving out of your parents' house or saving your money. Now you might ask yourself, what is the fucking upside to that? How exactly, Shallon, are you going to spin that as a pro? Why would that be a good thing? I don't know, girl. Why is it? I'm not in your life. I'm not you. But if you keep doing it, if you keep repeating this dynamic with messy guys, where it's all about them, he's a little broken, you get to pull up and fix him. There absolutely is a reason that you keep doing that. Humans don't do things that don't work. Now you might say, you just said the risk machine. The risk machine works. The risk machine works. If something doesn't work for us, we stop doing it. Eventually we get the memo, we're like, this doesn't work, right? And we can see this, ironically, clearly in the case of addicts. And if you've ever watched Intervention or I'm addicted, didn't mean that pun. I'm addicted to shows like this because it's so interesting. I always like to see the shift, like when someone actually will shift and get sober. 9 times out of 10, it's when the rest of the family, when everyone else cuts them off. Cuts them off. And the addict is like, I knew as I sat in the back of that cop car, no one was going to bail me out of jail. So exactly, if something doesn't work anymore, if there's no one supplying their habit and giving them a place to live, they're like, oh, this actually doesn't work. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to try to get some help and change my life. Okay. So let's apply that to this other dynamic with dating. Why do you keep doing it? Why is it a good thing? Why is it a positive thing that feels good to you to be distracted from your own life? What does that mean? Why would it be good for you to not pass the bar? Do you not really want to be a lawyer? And you can't, if you don't pass the bar, you kind of don't ever have to be a lawyer. You just keep kicking the can down the road, right? Or do you think you're not smart enough to be a lawyer? And if you pass, holy shit, you have to pull up and actually do it. Does that mean you don't get to be a kid anymore? You have to be an adult. You're a lawyer. Do you think you're not going to pass? And well, you can't fail if you don't try. I'm just too focused on him. I can't try. You know? If this relationship is keeping you fat, so very, very fat, why is that a good thing in your life? Why? What does that get you out of? Right? Maybe it's, well, if I lost weight and if I still didn't find the love of my life, then that means people are actually rejecting my personality. I mean, things can get very deep and very heavy. If I lost weight, then someone might molest me again, like they did when I was a little girl. If I lost weight, then my family might reject me because they're all still fat. Right? I don't know. You got to sit with this a little bit. You have to sit with it a little bit because there is something that keeps you with someone messy. So that's one con/pro. If you're focused on him, you don't have to be focused on you. Here's another one. Another con. He's the biggest mess you know. He is the biggest mess. You know what the pro is of that? No matter how messy you are, he's always worse, baby. We've talked about this in regards to Kourtney Kardashian and Scott Disick. That's why she stayed with him for a decade, because she's a fucking tyrant. And she loves to big league people and she loves to have power and lord it over people, right? I mean, we've kind of seen that unfold pretty darn clearly. She's a bit of a bully. Bullies love power. And you know what bullies respond to? Strength. You know who doesn't have a lot of that? Because strength requires consistency, clear-headedness, self-awareness. An addict. A mess. They're not strong. They might be bombastic and loud and unpredictable. That's not strength. That's actually weakness, right? That's animalistic weakness. So as long as she was with Scott, she could behave with impunity. She could be such a bitch. She could go out and get wasted and throw up in her bed. And it's funny because she's not the bigger addict here, right? Scott's always going to be worse. She can call all the shots because he's the addict. So she gets to be the little tyrant in her fiefdom. Because what are you going to do, Scott? You're wasted all the time. Don't you tell me how to raise these kids. Don't you tell me what to wear, what house to buy. She has the ultimate trump card to play, always. And the people I see who gravitate towards addicts, I see this dynamic. I see it a lot. They get to be up on their little pedestal, Queenie, looking down on this person. I just want to help him. Well, do you think looking down on him is very helpful? I'm not even saying that I would blame you for thinking less of a man, but to constantly present it and to set up that dynamic and get such like a juice out of it. Yeah, dude, I have to drink to be around your ass too. Here's another con. Your life doesn't move forward. So this is a little bit different than the distraction, kind of. I guess it's part and parcel. I should have made this like 1.B or something. But your life isn't moving forward. And hey, moving forward, so that's the con. Oh, that's what I mean. No, I didn't mean con. I was thinking like con artist. I've been listening to a lot of con artist podcasts. Girl, I am like barely there today. I am so sorry. Things are coming along in this wild ride of nonsense. Hopefully I'm still doing okay. Okay. It's amazing I have any friends. The con is that, yeah, your life is not moving forward, but that can also be the pro. Because then you get to stay in this zone, you know? Maybe your college sweetheart is a complete mess and life after college seems really, really scary, even though you're maybe 26. But if you can stay in this sort of dynamic that is evocative of this time in your life, college, high school, a marriage, whatever it might be, some season that you don't want to transfer out of, that you don't want to let change, you might be getting a payout out of that. It seems like a lot of these pros and cons, you know, they're rooted in fear, right? Fear of the unknown, the risk machine coming back to haunt us. What's going to happen? What would happen if I let this situation go and I had to take the bar? I had to get a big girl job. I had to leave this small town. I don't know. You got to answer that question for yourself. Now, of course, the biggest con about dating someone, now this is particular to like an addiction, is you could lose them. And that's something I'm dealing with right now. And I've shed a lot of tears about it and lost a lot of sleep. And, you know, I don't want to get upset. It's, you know, if you're in the Shallon entourage, you know who I'm talking about. It's like I'm trying to fly a plane with my mind. Just keep him in the air. Keep him just keep him sort of up there, you know. I can't let him come crashing down. I can't leave him. Something might happen and I might not know and I might not be there. Who am I? An X-Men? What on earth would I do? And I know that, you know, we know that when we deal with people. It's like, I can't save somebody. But you feel like you can't abandon them. You know, and because who would I be if I abandoned someone I cared about when they're down bad like this? But then, I mean, we just talked about it's like people get help when you cut them off. Some of them do. I think that that's hugely correlative. I think that's your best shot, but it's not a guarantee. And through lots of therapy, I have realized, because my therapist is like, why can you not let this man go? And before I knew what I was saying, you know, sometimes you just blurt things out and then you're like, oh my God, that's so true. I was like, because he can't let me go. And therefore we won't let each other go. And everyone else has been able to let both of us go. We, I think, feel very disposable. You know, we felt kind of disposable. And maybe not. Maybe I'm putting words in his mouth. But yeah, I mean, dating makes you feel disposable, right? And when you have someone who gets jealous and who knows all your friends and you know theirs, there's a fabric there and you don't want to tear that to shreds. And if you leave him, well, honey, that means he doesn't have to pull up for you either, right? So that's the pro and the con. The con is you're trying to save this person. But the pro is they're addicted to you right back. That's the thing with codependency. You need them, they need you. But they need you. They need you. Yes, somebody needs me. Somebody's not going to leave me. It's trauma bond. It's so toxic, but at least it's something, right? And again, that circles back to fear. And my therapist was like, actually, no, this is my best friend. She's like, picture life without him. Not like dead, but like, picture that you don't talk anymore or he moves or you get married or something like that. And I burst into tears. I'm like, I cannot picture that. I can't picture it. She's like, think about how many things in your life are present right now that you couldn't picture either. You lived in New York for over a decade. Could you picture having a big house with a yard? Could you picture having a dog again? Could you picture being a YouTuber? No. Could you picture being this weight? No. She's like, who fucking cares if you can't picture something? Can you picture $1 million stacked up? I was like, no. She's like, well, it exists. So, you know, and that's really true. It's really true. Like, we have to get out of this, like, just because I can't envision it and I can't tell you exactly what a day in the life would look like without this toxic person in my life doesn't mean it's not possible. And you have to have faith. Because what is the opposite of fear? Faith. Faith. And I envy very religious people. I am far more religious than people realize I am. But I'm not one of those people who constantly defaults to, God's got this. You're in the palm of his hand. It's his plan. He's walking with me. You know, I envy that because, yeah, fuck, man. I wonder if I'd be able to move on from things a whole lot easier thinking, you know what? I trust that God's got me. And I'm going to leave something bad because there's something great ahead. I walked through the valley of the shadow of death. It came to pass. It did not come to stay. And the people saying, Hallelujah. Here's another con/pro. It's volatile. It's unstable. You know, you can never just relax into a relationship and get to know someone. Addicts, mentally unstable people, they're selfish. They're sick, right? Sick people are always selfish. That's you ever get the flu? I'm the most selfish person in the whole wide world. Nobody fucking talks to me. It's all about me. But that's really tough when you're in a relationship. It's like, I can't ever tell you about my problems because it's always the Pete show. It's always the Pete show. You can't be bothered to pull up for me. You're drunk or you're hungover and you're really fucking edgy. So I really can't talk to you. And then you're drinking again and you want to be with your friends. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. When is it going to be my turn to fall apart? Am I allowed to fall apart and have a bad day? No, it's all you. It's all you, right? So that's the con. But what's the pro of that? How could that possibly be a good thing? Well, intimacy is scary. True intimacy, opening up, sharing when you're vulnerable and you're hurt and giving your heart someone to manage and maybe they mismanage it. That's some scary shit. It's a lot easier to be closed off. And who could blame you from being closed off when you're dating someone messy? You're trying. I'm going to use the finger guns here. You're trying to open up, but oh, he just won't let it happen. He's always in a crisis. The pro is you don't have to. The volatility, that's also a pro because guess what? It's exciting. That goes under the umbrella of the very first thing we talked about, which is it's distraction. You don't really have to focus on your life, you focus on someone else's, right? I realize my toxic boyfriend that I date is travel. My toxic boyfriend is travel. Because in the run up to a trip, I'm just so busy. I can't do anything. I'm organizing outfits and I'm blah, 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 and I'm not posting a lot. Blah, blah, blah. And then when I travel, blah, 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 I'm so busy. I can't answer this. I can't get back to my manager. I can't open emails. I'm on a trip. People are like, oh, she's on a trip. Don't ask anything of her. And then I get back. I'm so tired and I'm adjusting. I mean, it just keeps on going. It's always an excuse to be distracted, to not focus on what I need to do, to run from my feelings, to avoid intimacy. My friends are like, every time you start to date someone, you pack up and you go on a trip. And every time things go belly up with a guy, you pack up and you go on a trip. Because you don't want to feel the feels. Feel the feels. That might be true. And so purposely, this summer in Montana, I'm staying home. And I was thinking about going to Saint-Tropez to meet my friends. And I decided not to because I realized I need to get a little bored. I need to get repetitive. I need to get bored. I need to let my intuition bubble up. And she can't do that if you're running for a flight and doing this and drinking champagne and you're on a yacht. It'd be amazing. That's fun. But that doesn't allow enough quiet to let my intuition tell me what she thinks and tell me what's going on. I wanted to purposely give myself a little quiet time, you know? It can be scary. It can be boring. But that's not going to kill me. And instead, I'm going to switch in this mindset of faith. I know that I'm going to be okay if I get a little bored. And I also know that if I meet someone I really like and we start to date, I'm going to be okay if I open up to them. And I'm even going to be okay if they mismanage my emotional underbelly. If I show them my heart, if I tell them how I'm feeling, and they're like, I'm actually going to survive and I don't need to get on a plane. I can just be. Because dating someone with a mental health issue or a toxic season or an addiction, whatever, it's the opposite of being able to just be. It's a washing machine, right? Not a bathtub. It's all over the place. It's not just sitting. It's not just sitting. And so if we can have the faith in God and whatever, or in ourselves to be like, I know that I will be okay if I don't have the volatility. If I am in a relationship where I'm opening up and being intimate, I'll be okay if I let this person save themselves. And if I recognize they're an adult and they make their choices. And you know what? They're not coming to save me. They're a goddamn mess. Wow. If we can have the faith in ourselves that we can be okay just being or being in something healthy, these toxic dynamics are much less appealing. What do you guys think? When you have been in unhealthy relationships, what were the pros and cons? Are there some that I missed? I'm trying to think. Probably. I feel like, some are very individual, but some are very universal. It's just one might be more enticing than another to you. But sit and think with it and tell me what you think about Pete Davidson. Do you think that it's a good thing when people go to rehab not for a drug addiction? And if you had to go to rehab for one thing, what would it be? What would it be? I don't know. Being too beautiful. Oh, people can't handle it. I don't know how to deal with them not being able to deal with it. Right, okay. Like I said, join my online dating course if you need a little help navigating the world of Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. And if you want to connect with me, you get 5 new videos, tons of story times. I'm currently updating you on a boy who is fixing to get his jaw broken. He keeps up this bullshit with me. I will see you later, Shallon.